everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Alli and this is another video part of my Holla DIY series. So today is a bit fun because I'm going to tie in one of my favorite series that I do on the channel, really my only series I do on this channel, called I Can DIY That. Basically, it's where I take expensive items and DIY them for a significantly less amount of money. And since holiday decorations are so pricey, especially from higher end stores, I thought this would be the perfect challenge to tie in for the Christmas season. So I picked out a couple different items from Pottery Barn that I am going to be DIYing, and normally for these I Can DIY That videos I would give you my kind of price comparison, but I kind of lost all of my receipts from when I shopped for my Holla DIY videos. So I am gonna say though, every single DIY you see in this video is under $10. So the first item I'm going to be recreating is this Merry Christmas mirrored art. Now if you were to buy this mirror, it would actually be pretty large. It's one of those nice over the mantle type mirrors. But I was like, well, I don't have a mantle for one. I don't have a big space for a big mirror anyway. So I decided to make a much smaller version of this item using a Dollar Tree mirror. But let me show you how I made this really easy and quick mirror DIY. I need to really stop doing crafts with mirrors because you always get this really horrendous reflection of me in the clip. But I quickly removed the back of this mirror and set it aside, and then just gave the frame a good paint coat of this cherry red color. I then waited for that to dry and applied a second coat just so it would be a little darker. Bringing that mirror back into the shot here, and I am so sorry, I focused on the mirror's reflection instead of the actual action taking place. But I wrote out the quote, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas," just like the Pottery Barn mirror, with a Sharpie. Next, I went in with a paint pen and just traced over all of those Sharpie lines. A paint pen works really well for this project because you get the precision of just using a regular marker and the nice thickness of a coat of paint. Once that text dried, I just took a brush and kind of dry brushed a little bit of some black acrylic paint on top, just to create a little weathered and worn antique look on the mirror. Finally, I put the mirror back into the frame, and now you have your finished piece. Next, I want to do my own take on this plaid faux fur trim pillow cover. Pottery Barn sells these in two different sizes, a 20-inch and then kind of like a long rectangular sized one. If you were to buy this from Pottery Barn, they would cost around $29 to $35 regular price. And I'm going to show you how to make it for such an inexpensive price. I even found my plaid material at Goodwill. So let's jump into this DIY. So I actually started with this red buffalo check pillowcase that I got from Goodwill, but you can use whatever plaid fabric or Goodwill item that you want. And I also got a 1/4 yard of brown faux fur fabric. So the first thing to do is flip your fabric inside out and then measure to the size of your pillow. And I was doing a 16 by 16 inch pillow, so I made sure to cut my fabric a little bit bigger to add a seam allowance. Next, I cut my faux fur piece so that it would be long enough to cover two sides of the pillow, so I ended up having a little bit extra of this fur. And then I went in and cut it at about 2.5 inches. And honestly, you could probably cut it at 2 inches because I ended up with way too much faux fur trim on my pillow. So I ended up cutting 2 strips, that way you could cover all 4 sides of the pillow. And I stitched them up so they'd be linked together. And then you just go in and you pin the fur, you fold it in half and pin it on the inside so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. That way, when you sew it up, the fur trim will be on the outside. And when I sewed this up, I only sewed up 3 sides and just left the bottom open because you'll never see it. Of course, you can sacrifice a pillow form for this DIY, or you can use some stuffing and stitch the whole thing up. You could follow my envelope fold tutorial to do it that way, but here is how the pillow turned out. And my third and final I can DIY that for this episode are these really adorable plaid Christmas reindeer. I think these are so sweet. Now this is definitely a little bit more of a challenging DIY for me to tackle. These 2 reindeer come in around $40 to $50 if you were to buy them from Pottery Barn. I believe the versions I'm making are a little bit smaller than the ones that they sell. I think theirs were actually rather large. I'm gonna show you how I made them, and I've even included a free pattern. That way you can make these on your own. That will be over on my blog, actually Alli.com. There's a link down in the description. I started out with 2 different Christmas plaid pieces of material. I got 1/4 yard for both reindeer. Next, I folded the material in half with the bad side facing upward and traced this handy dandy little reindeer pattern that I made that you can find linked down in the description to make the perfect large and small size reindeer. I cut out the shape and then took some little tiny straight pins and pinned the 2 halves of the deer together, as well as the 2 halves to the bottom of the deer. Then I just went over to my machine, and first I sewed around the little ellipses shaped bottom. And then I actually I left a little gap on his butt because you're gonna have to stuff him, and then just sewed all the way around the entire reindeer. Next, I went in with some scissors to make little snips to make sure when the reindeer was turned right side out, he would keep his cute little shape. So that's exactly what I did next. Flip him inside out, and then of course stuff him until he's nice and tight with polyfill. And because I was lazy, I just used hot glue to close up the gap. Of course, it would be way nicer if you hand sewed this shut. To make the legs, I cut dowels to my desired length and then just wrapped them with some brown ribbon. Now this is pretty thick brown ribbon. I would recommend using like 1-inch thick ribbon instead of this, or even some felt. To make the antlers, I had these little pieces from my Halloween DIYs off of a Dollar Tree floral arrangement. I just cut those down and I thought they looked like antlers and glued them on to the reindeer's head. To make some ears, I just strategically folded up a tiny little square of material into what kind of looked like an ear shape, glued that whole piece together, and then stuck it on the reindeer's head. Finally, the reindeer needs a scarf, so I added a little red felt scarf and a tiny mini pine cone for his tail. And then for the legs, I just snipped a very itty bitty hole into the bottom of the reindeer. Not the best method, but then I filled that hole up with a ton of hot glue and then inserted the dowel to create his legs. That concludes my Christmas version of I Can DIY That. I so love this series and I want to keep doing it on my channel. So as I always ask at the end of these videos, any stores, challenges, monetary amounts that you want me to try for one of these videos, leave that in a comment below. I will take any suggestions I can get because I just want to keep making videos like these. If you want to check out my other I Can DIY That, I'll put a card up above and a link in the description. And if you want to see any of my other Christmas and holiday videos, I'll also link those. Don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And that's all I have for you in this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!